This module is about how do you manage your sales rep or reps on an ongoing basis. Frankly, it's where the sort of the grind comes in. It's the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year, daily duties of a sales manager. If you're doing this as a full-time profession, it can really be kind of monotonous. But you as an owner, you have the luxury of kind of jumping in and jumping out. So I'm going to walk you through some of the ways to do it, a typical agenda that I like for sales meetings, and how you can avoid a humongous trap that I'm calling supermanning at the end of this unit. But let's start with what it's like to be a sales manager. How do you find time to do it? And I'm here to tell you that it's really easy to do if you've got everything mapped out. If you have a good interview process, if you have a good hire, the hire's working hard, they're showing up, they're giving you the feedback that you need. It's not really a hard job. It's not even a full-time job, to be honest. You can do it. You have the tools. I'm giving you a lot of tools, and you have them inside of you. A good sales rep is very aligned with the owner's best interest. If you have your comp plan in sync and everything else, you're on the same team. Now, on the flip side, a bad rep, a rep that doesn't show up, a rep that doesn't care, a rep that's maybe got one foot out the door looking for a different job, isn't really in the grind like you are, it's going to be tough. And we're gonna help you. I'm gonna help you deal with that with a few corrective actions, and ultimately you might have to let them go. There's really two roles. When you're happy, when you have a good rep, when everything's in sync, you're really kind of a cheerleader, or what I like to call a servant manager. If that's a term you're not familiar with, look it up. A servant manager is really what is sort of the definition of a good sales manager. It's somebody who helps their team by serving them, not by commanding them or enforcing rules and proclamations, but by actually helping, pitching in, and doing the work. A cheerleader is pretty easy to figure out. You're there, you're supporting them. Now, if you have if you're kind of stuck in that negative vibe, you have to really take on the role of sort of a velvet, hammered, stern parent, dishing out tough love whenever you get the chance. You have to get them on the right path or get rid of them, frankly. But either way, it requires a lot of tough love. So we have these two personalities. One is the cheerleader servant manager, the other is the parent tough love commander. Let's start with the happiest one, because why not? Hopefully that's the only one you'll ever know. Your job there is to pitch in, get involved, and help out any way you can. As a sales manager myself, and for you yourself, what you want to do is focus on your superpowers. What is it that you're really good at? I can give you kind of two stories where I was able to do this effectively. I spent a lot of time in what's known as contract furniture manufacturing dealerships, where it's really complex. You might not know this, but a typical furniture cube has maybe 300 different specs, 300 different parts involved. And speccing out each one of those is pretty complicated. So if you get an RFP from a whole building, and you're one of 3 people that have to compete for that, there's a lot of work. And my superpower is sort of project management. So I had designers doing their part, I had salespeople doing their part, and I was sort of running the show, running the RFP, getting the content together. It didn't come up all the time, but that's what I was good at. And if I just left it to them, it would have been not as good a product, reduced our chances of winning, and robbed me of a chance to be a part of the team and help out. Even when we lost those, my participation was very much appreciated. And when I had to ask them to work hard, I was right there with them. That's a great example of a servant manager pitching in with a great team. Another example I have is when I had a sales team that had a lot of sort of numerical comparisons they had to do. Our value proposition was saving people money. Our competitor had a very, very complicated invoice system. We knew it, but their own clients, the people we were trying to get to convert, had no idea what they were being charged. So I put together another superpower of mine is comparative spreadsheets. So I put together an apples to apple thing. I taught the reps how to use it, but frankly, they weren't as good at it as I was. And so what happened was they'd bring this back, or they'd scan me an invoice. 10 minutes later, I had a great apples to apple presentation that won us a lot of business. This was a tool, to my knowledge, not very many people had in our industry. It was something I knew how to do as a sales manager, and I added it to their bag of tricks. They won a lot of deals because of that simple tool. But left up to their own skills and experience, it just wouldn't have existed. So find a way to add your superpower to their environment, and they'll be very grateful, and they'll be willing to run through the walls that you need them to succeed. Now let's talk a little bit about the negative side, the tough love, stern parent component of this, right? It's going to happen. You're going to have some people that are they were either good performers and they've hit a lull, or they're just kind of stuck. They might be in a rut. They might be having some personal problems, which, up to you to decide how deep you want to get into that, but you're still stuck with the performance from 8 to 5 or whenever they're in your office. You have to do something. So my advice to you is to get together with that person, figure out, go back to kind of the basics and say, this is what you're here for. This is how we measure it. What are you doing to provide the organization with the results that we need for the investment that we're making in you? Sit down with them, go over it. It might even be wise to ask them the question, if you were me, how would you perceive your performance right now? Their answer might surprise you. They might already have known. They might have known months ago that they were sort of phoning it in, and they might need a lot of help. They might even have some specific things that they need help with. It could be motivation. It could be all sorts of different things. But your job as a tough love parent is to get involved and help them solve those. A critical component of this tough love approach is giving them specific corrective action that they can take immediately that you can measure. So if you're having trouble with their attendance, they need to be there on time starting tomorrow. If they're not making the calls, they need to start making the calls. If they're not following up, you need to be copied in or BCC'd in on emails that show that they're following up. You need to have a specific action. It's not enough to say, you need to sell more, Bob or Susie. That's just not enough. You need to focus on the activities. That's your job. That's the nitty-gritty of sales management. Let's talk a little bit about what it's like in just the day-to-day grind, what it is to fit sales management into owning a business like you do. You're busy. You have bills to pay, payroll to hit, customers to satisfy, banks to meet with. It's tough to fit this in, and sales management is probably the easiest thing you have on your calendar to postpone or to cancel. You control the environment. It's your company, it's your employee. Whether you do it or not, nobody's going to complain. The salesperson probably going to enjoy the free day. But you can't do it. You have to find a way to fit it in. It's sort of like exercise. Even 20 minutes here or there is going to pay off. Now, I know exercise advice coming to me might not be the most logical, but still, it works. Trust me. I'm not the best exerciser, but I'm a great sales manager. A couple more things in this area of time management is it's the little pieces that matter. So find a way to fit it in a routine, right? And let the person know at 4 o'clock I'm going to call. We're going to talk for 10 minutes. Don't give me the whole song and dance. Don't give me everything. Just give me the details. What'd you do today? How'd it go? What do you need from me? 10-minute little micromanagement, in the good sense, micro in minutes, can go a long way. Get everybody in a routine. Keep in mind, too, that you don't have to know everything. If they come up with a problem that you don't know the answer to, delegate it to somebody else. But you need to know about it. That's your job as the manager. You need to know what's stumping them. That's a great question to ask them. I had a boss once that asked us in a meeting all the time, what's holding you back? What's stumping you? It's a great question. It makes people identify the obstacles that they have and give you the opportunity as the owner, the all-powerful owner, to solve them. Take advantage of that. You need to also find your rhythm. You might be one of these owners, and I've had a few of these, where Monday morning, they kind of wish they got to work the last 2 days because they came in rip-roaring ready to go with all sorts of activity, all sorts of plans and measurements and agenda items. And it wasn't the best idea to confront a salesperson with that. They came in, maybe they're a little hungover, who knows. Some people's weekends are tougher than their weekdays. Mine are. So coming in Monday morning and having a knockdown, drag-out meeting with all sorts of strategic implications at 8 a.m. every Monday, what doesn't hit my rhythm, my personal rhythm, right? Find out what yours is. If you come in and you're just too hot, you're too anxious, that's probably not the best time to do some one-on-one training. Figure out what yours is, match it up with your reps, and you'll have a good little corporate rhythm to go for. I found that having a burrito, we're in San Diego, burritos are everywhere, frankly. It might be a hot dog, who knows what it is where you are, but just going out for a casual lunch with one rep at a time, every couple of weeks, unannounced, unplanned, not a big commotion, went a very long way. It allowed, they were fun, they were grateful for the burrito. Secondly, they were sort of calm, it was casual, but it was a great way to know what's going on in sort of their outer world environment, right? If they're your friend, you might be able to catch up on some stuff, but invariably it's going to get to business. How are things going? What's working? What's not working? It's a great way to have a casual setting for you to continue your bond as a servant manager. So how do you take the time to build a winner? You put it in, you find it. You have to build a winning team, even if it's just a rep of one. It's still a team, it's you and them. There might be more reps, there might just be one, but you're a team. You should be completely aligned, fit time in for one another, and make it work. You might have a rep that, or maybe you can't afford an all-star rep. You can't afford a six-figure rep that's just going to make it rain all over town. But you might be able to take a 250 hitter in baseball terms and turn them into a 330 hitter. And as long as they're in front of prospects that respond to that, and you're in a marketplace that supports it, you have a winning team, and you just keep going. Keep improving, keep focusing on what's going to make you better tomorrow, today, next week.